about coming all the way from Wayakiwe. So if you're coming from the areas of Wayakiwe and all those estates enjoying Kikuyu, Kangemi, Kino, as well as also just Westlands coming to the city center, if at all you're coming to the CBD, then you'll have to do the traffic around the roundabout. Slightly past there as you are heading over to Kenyatta Avenue, also a bit of a gridlock. And the sad part is that actually it's on both lanes. And I'm just trying to imagine what could be causing traffic, on both lanes. But again, we keep saying all the time that sometimes a bit of synonymous when it comes to matters traffic and the rains. There's a bit of drizzling, especially in this early morning hours, so that could be the leading cause of the kind of traffic you are spotting now. So yes, in as much as it is not the heavy kind of gridlock given it's the early morning hour, but it's just beginning to slightly build up. So if at all you're coming to CBD from Wayakiwe, from also the other side of city center, as well as heading all the way to Kenyatta Avenue, then clearly this is the best time for you to do that. Now, if you can just notice that we are looking at University roundabout, so this is clearly in the heart of the city center. That's why I'm mentioning, if at all you're coming to these areas, then that means you're going about your activities, your workstation, your business. So clearly, again, this is just the best time for you to do that, because in as much as traffic is beginning to slightly build up, I can tell you for sure that in the next hour, we'll be seeing or spotting that heavy kind of traffic style up there. So that's how it's looking like just along University roundabout next before you join to Kenyatta Avenue. Again, on the other side, just as you leave Kenyatta Avenue going all the way to Valley Road, traffic also building up next to actually just on that specific lane as you are coming to the city center. That's just where there's a bit of traffic. So again, if you're coming from the areas of Ngong, probably using the city mortuary roundabout, coming through to the other side of Kenyatta Avenue, before you just get to the roundabout, then clearly you'll have to make the traffic next, just nearing the roundabout. Slightly before that area, it's just smooth sailing, no traffic at all, green all through. The beauty of that is that actually that is on both lanes. Next to the roundabout and also throughout the entire roundabout as you head over to the city center, that's just where we are spotting a bit, and I will insist on that, is just a bit of a traffic snarl up. So ultimately what that means is that at least it's a manageable kind of traffic there. So that's how it's looking like in terms of traffic this morning in Nairobi City. But as I had mentioned, we'll be focusing in of our traffic this morning. We'll be trying to focus on what will be happening in Nakuru town, simply because of the projects that have stalled there, and also what is expected to begin come early next year when it comes to the expansion of Nakuru Mau Summit Road. But as of now, this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic. Just trying to see how University roundabout and Kenyatta Avenue is doing this morning.
Yes, thank you for that traffic update. We're going to be keeping tabs on that as the day proceeds. And now we cross over to what the daily newspapers have for us in the front page in the headlines this morning. I will be looking at two copies, the Daily Nation and the Standard. I start off with the Daily Nation. This is how the front page looks like. All matters of BBI taking center stage there. New power post in BBI structure, and quote, that is the main header there. At the same time, we have quite a header there just at the top. You might likely miss it because it's not been given much prominence on the front in as far as the headline is concerned. No plan to revive Ruto case at ICC. This is according to the prosecutor. Says that there's no new evidence yet. Details will be coming up in not long and has been captured on page 10. As well as school face a fresh crisis of backlog. It's a race against time to fully reopen. Remember, last week we heard from the Ministry of Education that there were no plans as yet to reopen, or rather to fully reopen and resumption of face-to-face learning, given the lessons that we've learned over the last few weeks. Following the phased reopening of schools targeting Form 4's Class 8 and Grade 4. Matters of BBI taking center stage on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. And also there, just neology there, that is Zamba, Kitunga there, lawyer, the former committee of experts on the Constitution Review, Chairman Zamba Kitunga, who died on Saturday. Remember, these are some of the main people who ensured that we had the Constitution 2010 as it is, and he would have come in very handy in light of this conversation around the BBI report. May his soul continue resting in peace. Further on, let's look at what we have on the Standard this morning. It also takes in matters of BBI and give them more precedence there. With a little bit of a daring header there, quoting President Uhuru Kenyatta saying, Uhuru dares Deputy President to walk the talk. Now setting the pace. President slams his deputy for making promises to Kenyans when he's not part of government, when he's part of the government and not helping deliver the Jubilee's agenda. Details will be coming up in not too long, as captured on page 9 of the Standard. On the other hand, Deputy President William Ruto says, to go or not to go, remember all eyes are focused on Bomas of Kenya this morning. Now, Ruto has made his reservations public, and his allies are opposing the report. We'll be watching. Irene Chuma as well as Ben Troy and Joe are going to be down there, and we'll be keeping you, updated on that. Remembering that we're going to be live from the Bomas of Kenya this morning, just to find out will the Deputy President be present or not. Remember, the last time we had such a convention at the Bomas of Kenya, we had, issues of some people being locked out from the main hall or the main theater, call it as you may. We'll be keenly watching what is going to happen down there this morning. Now, I am in the race, just in case you're wondering. Baba there quoted that he is in the race. That is a former Premier Raila Odinga there saying ODM leader Raila Odinga declares for the first time that he's not quitting elective politics. And the main word there is elective politics. Keep that in mind. We're still talking matters of BBI. And he further on tells his supporters that his family in the contest to compete the country's third and final liberation in 2022. Details will be coming up in not too long. Remember, that's a copy of the Standard and the Nation for you there. That's what we have on the headlines. We're going to be keeping. Then there's also, in case you've been asking and you've not gotten a copy of this BBI report, it's a high time then you grabbed one of the dailies this morning, and this is being the Standard. They have a free pullout on all you need to know on Monday's, issue of the Standard, and this is how it looks like. An abridged report of the steering committee on the implementation of the Building Bridges, a United Kenya Task Force report. Grab yourself a copy. It's all in the Standard this morning. That will be coming up in not too long in the headlines.
Of the different dailies we have this morning. On the front page of the Star, there's still matters to do with BBI. It looks like Building Bridges initiative is just dominating the papers this morning. So the main caption just saying that BBI battle begins as Uhuru Raila move to Bomas. And just as Ray has said, we will be watching to see if the Deputy President will actually make an appearance there. Still on the front page, there's the story of Zamba Kitunga, who passed away. Image of the Wiper leader just condoning with the family. The wife of the late Zamba Kitunga is still keeping up with matters politics again. On the front page of the same paper, Mudavadi strategizing to bolster top job bid, just saying that the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi is now quietly but intensely working behind the scenes to position himself as the best person to succeed the president. So how well is he doing that? We'll be getting to read more about that as we unpack more of what is inside the paper. Still an interesting story again on the side, but 5 years in jail or 10 million Kenyan shillings fine for causing poll chaos. That is what we have there. So that is actually what we have on the front page of the Star this Monday.
Now we start off in the headlines. We just clearly on page 3, since the front page has totally highlighted matters of the BBI. We go to page 3 there of the Standard this morning. My last call with lawyer who had always had time for journalist. Now this is none other than the hero who gave Kenya the new constitution. That is what the headline reads here on the Standard this morning. And this is none other than Zamba Kitunga, who was the chairman of the Committee of Experts on the Constitutional Review until 2010. There's a story about, his encounter with journalists there, and a story has been written by Wilfred Ayaga, who said that Zamba Kitunga, until his demise, always had time for journalists there. He would totally be missed at a time when Kenya is facing a few, changes, might see a few changes in the constitution in light of the BBI report that is set to be made public or so debated at the Bomas of Kenya this morning. Now that is in page 2 and 3, just going back memory lane, just to talk about what he did in as far as his role was concerned. In 2010, he received the Jurist Award of the Year award for his work in the constitutional review process that led to the promulgation of a new constitution on August 27th, 2010. Now, his tenure at the helm of the LSK coincided with the clamor for the constitutional reforms, and as chair of LSK, he was expected to offer a voice of reason as reformist forces pushed for change. You want to read about the history of the hero who gave Kenya a new constitution? That is none other than Zamba Kitunga, who was the chairman of the Committee of Experts until 2010. May his soul rest in peace. He passed on Saturday, rather this weekend. Further on, let me also highlight a story, a human interest story that has been captured on page 5. Now, DNA test on baby freeze man who had been jailed for defiling a teenager. This is a story that has been captured on page 5 of the Standard this morning, and that in giving its ruling, the judge faults the magistrate court for not going further than the testimony by a girl to ascertain the facts of the case. Now, this also puts matters somewhat into perspective in what we're going to be discussing on Family Check, the emancipation of the boy child. Now, how to help the boy child, given that over what we've seen is that the society is biased, seemingly biased, in empowering the girl child at the expense of the boy child. Now, this is a turn of events where a DNA test on a baby frees a man jailed for defiling teen daughter. You can capture more details. You can get more details on page 4 and 5 of the Standard this morning. Doreen, I don't know what you have on your end.
Yeah, I just want to touch a bit on the BBI, just slightly, because it was on the front page of this paper. And this main header inside the paper actually saying the BBI battle begins. And this is as Uhuru Raila move to Bomas this Monday morning. Just continue to say that delegates drawn from 47 counties converged at the Bomas of Kenya to witness the official unveiling of the report by the president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, and ODM chief Raila Odinga. However, the flip side, it still remains to be seen whether the deputy president, that is William Ruto, will attend, and this is after his allies protested that he was publicly humiliated during the launch of the first BBI report on November 27th last year. And also further just continues to say that the Soy MP, which is Caleb Kositany, who is Ruto's de facto spokesman on political issues, he says that he had not received any invitation to attend this Bomas launch of BBI. So clearly, this just shows us that why it remains uncertain on whether or not we will see the DP there, because Kositany says that he has not received any invitation. So will they actually be attending? Will they not be attending? I mean, that is one thing that we really wait to see this morning, even as the president and the ODM chief will be unveiling this report. And at least away from matters BBI, I want to look at another story. This is in regards to matters COVID-19 and the fact that learners are will still probably be remaining at home as the COVID-19 burden grows. Remember that as of now, it's only the standard for grade 4, class 8, and form 4 pupils or students who are in school now because of their exams. The others were expected to at least begin to go to school, but as of now, it just looks like they might remain at home due to the COVID-19 numbers as they continue to grow in the country. So that's what we have there when it comes to matters education, and this is after 931 new cases, stop plans to actually let remaining classes reopen after 931 new cases were reported there. So what happens, or what is expected of this the students that are actually at home? This article has actually well stated and well explained what it is the Ministry of Education is what it is they're planning to do for these learners that are still at home, even as COVID-19 cases and numbers continues to rise here in the country.
Now, today being a day that we're all going to be waiting for to find out what is going to be happening at the Bomas of Kenya, I'd want to draw your attention to pages 6 all the way to, actually from the Daily Nation. That is, if you grab a copy from page 4 all the way through to page 7. And I'm going to be quoting an opinion piece there by Makao Mutua. In regard to the Constitution, he says, I want you to think with me about Kenya as an idea and not a geographic location. Now he calls and says that what I know is that the so-called handshake gave the country reprieve and an opportunity to take stock. There are as many compatriots who welcomed it, have also spanned it. The schism threatens to tear the country apart because of the competing ambitions of politicians and their supporters. Let's not pour gasoline on the embers of hatred and greed for power. How about that? That's an opinion piece that has been highlighted on page 7 of the Daily Nation this morning, at a time when we're all going to be looking at what is going to be happening at Bomas of Kenya. Will Ruto show up at the Bomas? While you're still pondering on that, is that you can also grab a copy of your Standard this morning. There's a pull-out, an abridged version of the BBI report. Remember, we said that this page report is 205 or 204. If you like, you can just get to see what it has highlighted there. Just small, if I can just highlight on how it looks there. The abridged report of the steering committee on the implementation of the Building Bridges to a United Kenya Task Force report. That's how it looks like. See there, all the signatures there, the joint secretaries. Now, this is something maybe we can touch on, one of the highlights there, on the issue of marginalization, or rather divisive. Let's talk about divisive elections. Now, in the task force report, it was noticed that we have forged politics, that is a contest of us versus them. And then we have chosen us, and then them on ethnic basis, especially in competing for the presidency. This comes at a time when, former Premier there, Raila Odinga, says that he is not out of elective politics and tells his supporters that he's firmly in the contest to compete for the country's third final liberation. Now, as we keep focus on matters BBI, it seems that is what has taken center stage, as well as now Kenya's COVID positivity rate going up to 13.9%. Previously, before the easing of the measures, it was at around 5.2, but now with that, it has come to 13.9. We're also going to be focusing on sports. And I know Arsenal fans want us to forget that they lost to Leicester yesterday night. That is nil. They lost. Leicester scored 1. And Arsenal had nothing. Hawakuwa na kifutia machozi, as we say it. So there we go. They actually are seeing top 8 kwa view sasa. What can we say? Wolves is currently on top 8 there, and they're arguing that they're going to take away number 8 is theirs, but we'll be watching keenly to see what exactly happens. Now, at the same time, talking about matter sports, is that we are having Cristiano Ronaldo also testing once again for a second time for COVID-19. Remember details, you can get details in regard to this matter sports, as well as what is happening locally, regionally, and internationally on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke.
Now, just before we wrap it up, because it looks like we are almost wrapping up in the headlines, I want to just look at one story, because it's a bit interesting, given the fact that it talks about matters election here in this country, and oftentimes there's always a bit of grappling at any time when it comes to elections. And this in regards to the fact that, yes, 5 years in jail or a 10 million Kenyan shillings fine for causing chaos in party primaries or even during elections, just saying that causing chaos during political party primaries will land you in jail for 5 years, or you pay 10 million Kenyan shillings fine if this new bill is enacted. Now, the Political Parties Primaries Bill 2020 proposes that tough penalties for those who cause violence or give bribes to influence the outcome of polls or elections in whatever form. And it states that any person who directly or indirectly uses or threatens to use any force or violence or offers or accepts a bribe. So even if you accept it, you still, fall under that category. You commit an electoral offense that is punishable, and that punishment is what has been given there. I mean, Ray, what do you think about this? Do you feel that this will actually, when this bill is enacted and put to law, will get to a point as Kenyans where we'll not be taking bribes, or our leaders will not be, giving bribes just to influence a certain way in which an election comes out, or polls or primaries in itself altogether? Is it in a good cause?
Well, I think the spirit is in the right place, but now the implementation of it and
is
also
challenge.
Just changing people's mentality. Look at matters of elective politics within the African continent. I don't know if we are going to get out of that particular space, but what I like about the proposal on the BBI report, just if we can digress, is that saying that now corruption cases are going to be, prosecuted within 2 years. And this made me question, what is curtailing, or rather what is prohibiting these court cases to be prosecuted in 2 years under this current constitution? Food for thought. But on that note, we take a short break, but when we return, we're going to be talking about the emancipation of the boy child. Have we left the boy child behind as we are focused on girl empowerment? We're going to be joined by an author who's decided to put it in a book and change the narrative. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
Say all kind of things about you.
We them on. Shake up your man. Zungushia one done. Zungushia one. When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy.
Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop in it.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You are filled with greed and selfishness.
What?
You are right. For the first time, you have made such a big mistake in recognizing someone.
Ashok! Ashok! Ashok!
Mother!
We need this win, Wanjala. You have to win.
They are fearless, yet friendly.
I hope hauna machungu after ile game ya mwisho.
I'm allowed to be concerned about you, Wanjala. I'm your wife.
I will take good care of you. Fierce, yet fair.
Pa combo sasa. Pop. Toza kidogo. Pop pop.
Firm, yet faultless.
You embarrassed mom. All of us.
But it would be nice if someone would look out for me too.
You don't listen to me.
Because you always want to tell me how to...
Jemo unadu nini hapa?
You are embarrassing me.
Ina lobi mimi siwezani nayo.
Kona, Kenya's daily drama.
Taina train ya tona muhimu sana kwa life yangu. Kwa hivyo vile mimi nafanya hapa ni upuzi.
Naweza kukusaidia kujua ni akina nani?
Mimi siwezi chukua msaada kutoka kwa Saitani.
What is this?
It's a make or break chance.
Your fun, fabulous, full team of Kona. Every fine weekday, right here on KBC Channel 1.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
The whole situation makes me anxious.
And you'll have to learn to deal with that. The worst thing you can do is give us away.
Are you rejecting me, Ramon? If Fabiola hadn't come into the picture between you and me, I'm sure we would be living together.
Fabiola didn't come between us.
Listen to me, they might kill you. My husband's name is Rogelio Arauz.
What is going on out here? Please don't do this to me.
Why not, Fabiola? If I love you, I can't go on keeping my silence anymore.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
This is the image of the new Nakuru town. This is actually leaving Nairobi as you head over to Nakuru town. This is one of the roads that has also benefited from the project being done by Kenyan Urban Roads Authorities and Kenya National Highways, which are responsible for the expansion, recarpeting of roads here in the country, installing of footbridges, ensuring that drainage systems are put in proper place. This is just again one of those projects thereabouts, so away from Nairobi city, just trying to show us that, you know, when it comes to what is happening on our roads, it is not just a project being done in the county of Nairobi, but it also extends further to different towns and also away from the capital city. So this is one of those roads which has been expanded. It's actually a dual carriage road. So it was expanded from a single carriage road to a dual carriage road. It has 4 lanes, but what they want to do right now, beginning early next year, which is about from January, February, thereabout, is they're thinking of continuing to expand this road to now make it a 6-lane road, simply because it is one of those vital roads and very instrumental, especially when it comes to the economy of our country. And that is because it's one of those roads that, you know, just transport, this is the vehicles, cargo, goods from Nairobi via Nakuru as you head over to countries such as Uganda as well as Tanzania, just using the different borders. We have the Malaba border there as well as just, the Busia border. So clearly one of those instrumental roads. And this is that specific road which is normally used. And especially just at what they call the corridor there. I'll be showing you, that specific area on the map in a bit. But along the corridor there, where is just next to Mau Summit, slightly also past Maimahiu. So clearly one of those vital roads, and that is the project which is now which will commence early next year. And next year again, trying to expand, making it to at least be a 6-lane road to facilitate easy movement of this cargo from Nairobi to different parts of the country, in different counties, as well as also further to different countries. Again, because of that economic factor. So this is how it's looking like, in terms of the expansion, at least in the heart of Nakuru. This is actually the heart of Nakuru town, how it's looking like. And again, one of the things that also came with this expansion, at least that first phase of the expansion, is that NMT was again put in place. So clearly just trying to show us also, this project being done by the different bodies that I just mentioned, they are also ensuring that pedestrians have easy movement as well as cyclists, because that is what NMT stands for, the non-motorized transport system, which is inclusive of pedestrian walkways as well as cyclist lanes. Again, also another thing that came with this project is the installation of footbridges. I'll be showing you other images of that probably in our next link-up segment. So right now, I just want us to look at traffic, trying to see if at all it is serving its purpose, because in as much as it's very vital and important when it comes to matters transportation of goods from Nairobi to different parts of the country, as I mentioned, as well as different countries. for the purpose of economic growth, it was also expanded, just reduced on the gridlock. Because then again, with all these goods being transported, with all this cargo being transported, as well as just people moving from Nairobi to different parts, sometimes the kind of gridlock, especially around this area next to Maimahiu, before you get next to Maimahiu, slightly next to Mau Summit area, as well as also that corridor around Salga area, normally the kind of traffic gridlock, around any time, sometimes really just becoming very unbearable. So we try to see if at all, this expansion process has served its purpose. And I will be looking at Maimahiu probably in the next link up, given the fact that, again, this is the area where that project has stalled a bit. So I want us to begin from just as you leave Nairobi County, heading over to Nakuru. Look at this. Clearly just showing us that whatever it is that they were, whatever they were doing in terms of the expansion process looks like, yes, it's not that bad. This is actually that road as you're leaving Nairobi, just slightly past, which area is this? Just slightly past the Nairobi town, coming all the way before you get to Nakuru. Actually, all this other, other minor roads before you get to that town there, moving at a really fast pace. In fact, just leaving the Nairobi town, coming all the way through these other roads before you get to Nakuru. And also, the beauty is that actually this is on both lanes. So again, it means that if at all you're leaving Nairobi this morning, going to Nakuru, or even past Nakuru to the counties of the western part or the Nyanza part of the country, then it looks like a smooth sailing for you. And also, if you're leaving those areas that I just mentioned, still coming through this area, also just a smooth sailing for you, not traffic at all, moving at a really, really, really fast pace this morning hour. But as I mentioned, we'll be looking at traffic around Maimahiu area, given the fact that it's one of those areas where this expansion of that road has stalled, and for quite a long time. I'll be telling you why that has stalled, and also trying to look at traffic around that specific area. But as of now, this is how it's looking like when it comes to traffic in Nakuru town. Regina.
Thank you very much, Doreen, for that update. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, now the National Police is conducting a nationwide crackdown on use of sanitizers, masks, as well as social distancing in light of increased, COVID-19 positivity rate from 5, an average of 5 before the easing of the measures, to 13.9 as of yesterday. Now, I'd want to read something here to just set the pace of this conversation this morning on Family Check. Like men of the past, boys of today seek significance from an early age, always drawing his parents' and other people's attention to whatever he is doing, sometimes even pleading for compliments. Unfortunately, the way most parents respond to this builds the ego of their son to a dangerous level. Quoted, "You are good at everything, son. Think big," they tell him. As a result, he begins to get the impression that life is all about doing things to impress the parents and the society in general. That is page 14 of our book this morning, written by a former acting senior editor of a renowned Christian publishing house, that is none other than Wilson Macharia, whose other books include Know Your Bible Better and its Kikuyu version. And forgive me if I do not pronounce it as it should. Remember where we come from, people from Harvard and the Mbas, we have a heavy tongue. But Takwero Nema Deko, I don't know if I've pronounced it correct, but that is Know Your Bible Better. And Jesus Christ is the key to knowledge, as well as how to write well in English, and 2 storybooks, The Wedding Gift and The Boy Child, There Is Hope. This morning we're talking about emancipation of the boy child. Have we empowered the girl child at the expense of the boy child? Get tweeting. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. What is your take? Now introducing my guest, Mr. Wilson Macharia. Good morning.
Good morning, Regina.
Great to have you on board.
Thank you.
Now, there's that general perception that, we have left, or rather the society is biased in as far as empowering the boy child. What's your take?
Thank you very much. Really, there is that general feeling that the girl child has been empowered, or rather society is caring more about the welfare of the girl child and doing little or nothing concerning the boy child. Mm-hmm. But I think I don't buy wholly into that argument. Definitely, we are living at times when the girl child is empowered. The girl child of today knows how to read and write. She has gone to the university. She is equally well, she is as well educated as the boy child. And that is good, because a child is a child. So we need to, I feel we need to continue empowering the girl child so that we can have powerful families in future. Mm-hmm. But then we also need to empower the boy child. So I still feel, or I'm of the opinion, that the problem is not with empowering the girl child. The problem has been with our failure of not empowering the boy child accordingly, so that he can match the empowerment that the girl child has achieved.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we get to the detail, or rather the contents of your book that you've authored there, that how to help a boy child. Now, what do you think, what is in your opinion then is driving this exclusion of the boy child? What factors or key drivers have ensured that we find ourselves in the situation we're in right now?
Really, the situation right now needs, we need to look critically at what it takes to empower the boy child so as to bring him to the level of the girl child, or rather, so that he can be able to relate well with that girl child whom we have empowered. For one, we have been, it has been observed, particularly in schools, that the boy child has been performing rather poorly in upper classes. At work, we have been hearing employers complaining that the performance of the boy child is lackluster, he lacks enthusiasm, etc., etc. We have also, it has also been observed that the boy child is very often or generally saddled with debt, because most of the boys want to live beyond their means because of the desire to impress. We have also been hearing, or rather even, we have been hearing of general complaints to the effect that boys are are taking too long to leave the family house, or even considering marriage. And sometimes it is even worse. We have been hearing that more and more boys are abusing alcohol and drugs, and some even considering suicide at the first appearance of problems. I think we need to take care of that by empowering the boy child psychologically first, before complaining that we have, or the society has focused on the welfare of the girl child too much.
I like the challenge there, that we need to empower the boy child psychologically. As you've mentioned, that all that is what we have had, that boys are taking longer to shift from their parental home, or they're living beyond their means because of societal pressures and such. But then, from your position, Sam, where do you think, where does the blame lie squarely? Is it because the upbringing has changed in the 21st century, or what has changed? Because you cannot compare our grandparents in as far as they were, and also our fathers, but now this generation, the men of this generation, what has changed?
There are a number of factors. We have been trying to look at the challenges of the 21st century using the lens of the previous century. Take, for instance, there were those days when boys were valued mainly because it was expected that they would guard the society. There were those days when communities did not depend very much on the military or the police. And it was expected that actually the boys were the ones to fight out there to enable to protect the community. But we are living at different times when we have the military, we have the police. So we need to look at things rather differently. Another thing I have realized is that the boy child is taking to heart some toxic messages from people who think that they are advising him. I don't know whether you have heard people telling children, if you do not do well in class, you will one time be employed in unclogging sewage systems, or in Kikuyu, we say you might end up being, can I put it in Kikuyu, mutagiwa huko, or a rodent trapper. You have even heard of people saying, if you don't do well in class, you will be a makanga. Now the question is, what is wrong with being a makanga? Number two, what is wrong with being a rodent trapper? I'm telling you, if rodents are not trapped, then we will not have a harvest. What is wrong with unclogging sewages? If sewages are not unclogged, even those who feel, even everybody, even the rest of us, will actually be living, we might even flee and go back to the countryside. So another thing I have that has caused all this is society's unrealistic expectations. Societies and realistic expectations. Particularly in the 60s and 70s, there were very, very many opportunities. Anybody who had gone even, by the time I was starting school, I remember in Standard 2 and Standard 3, we were being taught by those who were previously in Standard 8. Those who finished Standard 8 in 1963 and 1962 became our teachers in 1964 and 1965. Standard 8. Later on, of course, people now started doing their CPE at Standard 7. Even as late as 1968, you could see once you get to Form 2, you do JSC, you go for training and get a teaching job. These days, there are really not so many opportunities. Yet, we are expecting that young boy to finish school, get a job in the city, buy a plot. Even these days, when almost every place that has not been developed has a signboard, not to rent or even for sale. Then, the same boy is expected to do a very big wedding, maybe buy land in the countryside, buy a big vehicle, get many children so that the community can expand, etc., etc.
So much, it seems, has been pegged on the boy in as far as succeeding is concerned, societal expectations. But now, before we address that, and now we've clearly highlighted what may be, curtailing boy-child empowerment, we want to remind our viewers that we're live and we're inviting your feedback. And we're already getting feedback on Twitter. One G. Watiri says, at what point should the boy-child start getting empowerment? And who should empower the boy child? Mr. Masharia, over to you. If you can respond to Mr. Watiri this morning.
Okay. Who should... the boy child, the empowerment should start as early as possible. By that I mean, we should guard against what we say, the statements that we make by way of advising our children. So, the empowerment of the boy child should start as early as possible, as early as when you are raising your children. And then, if possible, it's always good for the parent to avail himself or herself, because sometimes we are leaving our homes on autopilot. Let me say, the challenges that we are facing today are beyond the house girl. The challenges that our children are facing today are beyond that grandmother. Sometimes after schools are closed, particularly here in the city, you find children being whisked to the countryside. That grandmother is not up to the challenges of today. She is not familiar with what is happening out there or to the young people as to be able to advise that child accordingly.
Now, you've authored this book, How to Help the Boy Child, and we have a terrible reading culture as Kenyans. Do you think then this book is going to meet its objectives, given our poor reading culture?
Well, one thing I know, I was told by somebody who sells insurance that there are many insurance companies, but generally very few people who buy policy. And because of those few people who buy policy, you see those people, the insurance companies survive. Similarly, I have realized that as much as our reading culture is poor, bookshops are still in business. There are those few people who read books. So I am hoping that at least those few ones who read will read this book. And hopefully, as they share what they have read, then it will reach as many, the message will reach as many people as possible.
Now, in your book titled How to Help the Boy Child, maybe you can just highlight some of the recommendations therein to change the current narrative in as far as, trying, emancipation of the boy child going forward.
Okay. I have said many people are must participate in this. First of all, we have the parent. They should avail, he or she should avail himself or herself, first of all, to be a student of society so as to make the son aware of the realities of life and replace unhealthy attitudes brought about by those toxic messages and realistic expectations, etc. A boy with a healthy attitude, of course, will focus in class and he will do his best in class. He will also appreciate the job that is available and work hard at it. A boy who has a healthy attitude will also live within his means or even below his means so as to save. Here, one thing that has been noted is that as much as there are toxic messages that the boy child is being bombarded with, as much as society is making unrealistic expectations on the boy child, even the boy child himself is also stressing himself through the desire to impress, in which case he ends up living beyond his means through borrowing. And that, of course, becomes very strenuous on him. So but when we empower the boy child psychologically, then he will live his means, or better still, below his means, so that he can be able to save for the rainy day. He will also not have a phobia for challenges as to fear leaving the family house or committing to a wife. He will also have resilience and will not consider alcohol and drugs as a way of tuning out of what he supposes to be unpalatable reality, even when trouble comes. But there are also other people who need to contribute to the welfare of the boy child, even the girl child herself. I know these days there is a phobia for poverty. And sometimes girls are looking for boys who are financially capable. So I think it is the high time even the girls got to know that even though their parents are now rich, that mother perhaps wedded the father when they didn't have anything. So other people that I feel should also contribute, even the spouse. The spouse also needs to contribute by not making impossible financial demands.
Mr. Mashari, what I'm hearing is that you're saying that the women folk also need to join in on the, the empowerment of the boy child, just as we've similarly seen the men standing up and getting counted in as far as empowering of the girl child is concerned, that the women have to play an integral part in as far as empowering the boy child. But I also want to dispute.
Yes.
I want to be the devil's advocate in this, yeah?
Okay, no
especially when you say in the relationship status, where I hear you saying that, the demands from the spouse who happens to be female sometimes play a role one way or another to disenfranchise this man. But then I'd want to say this is the 21st century. We should be pulling together 50-50. But what we have seen is that some men are comfortable just sitting back and allowing and letting the women work while they play PlayStation or they play games on their tabs and such. What do you say about that?
Yeah, you are right. You are right. Actually, the aim here, ultimately, the aim is to make strong homes, is to prepare for strong homes, not where anybody is taking advantage of the other. Mind you, let me say, let's go back to the Bible. Definitely, the institution of marriage was started by God. And at some point, it's written in the Bible that the man should be the head of the wife. The head here does not mean one person taking advantage of the other. It is the way you can have the chairman or a chair lady in a meeting. In fact, the chairman or chair lady talks very little. They depend on the contribution from the floor. I mean, the rest of the people are the ones who are talking. Meaning they are working together. They are working together. In fact, it is what you have contributed, the rest of the people in the meeting, what they have contributed, that the chairman and or the chair lady will use to address the problem at hand. Thank you.
Very well said. Now, you have written this wonderful book. I can see it has around 100 pages
yes.
of good content. So where can one grab a copy of this book titled How to Help the Boy Child, Mr. Macharia? Where can one?
The book is now available in bookshops. And if anybody would like it and it's not in the bookshop near them, maybe I can give them my number. They can call me and I can organize to have it available for them.
Yes. Sure, I was about to ask you if you're on social media so that you can give us your social media platforms so that people can reach out to you, maybe who have questions, because I can see you have quoted some, excerpts from the Bible, the book of Proverbs, as well as other books therein. Maybe some might want to have this question. So how can we find you, sir?
Well, I'll soon be on the Facebook, and people, maybe by next week, then once people open the page, they will find me there.
So give us your contact then, your mobile contact.
Okay, my mobile contact is 072 793 781 0720 793 781
0720 793 781.
Thank you very much.
So if you're watching and you're interested to just find out, or rather to grab a copy of this particular book where we're talking about just how we can empower the boy child who is seemingly is lagging behind in light of, focused empowerment of the girl child. It is titled there, How to Help the Boy Child, by our guest this morning, Wilson Macharia. You can get him on his mobile phone, that is 0720 793 781. He also tells us that he is going to be available on Facebook next week, so you might also check out his social media platforms. But now, before I let you go, Mr. Macharia, what has been your experience? I know you're not a first-time author and you're quite published as it is, but what was so unique while preparing or authoring this book here, How to Help the Boy Child? What was so unique about it?
Let me mention something about writing, perhaps, and then I zero in on this particular book. Many people want to write books, but many people have what it takes to write a book. In fact, books are not written by people. I mean, you don't become qualified to write a book because you know English or Kikuyu or any other language. You qualify to write a book because you have a message to put across. After all, even the Bible, the Old Testament was initially written in Hebrew, the New Testament was first written in Greek. They were translated into English not long time ago. Other books like, we have other books that were written in other languages and now have been translated into languages like English that we can understand, like the Government Inspector. But in writing any book, the first thing you need is to research information, the content for that matter. And that is exactly what I did. One thing, you must be a student of society, like so that whatever you hear people say, or you can be able to observe what is happening, put it down so that maybe eventually you can use it to illustrate points in your book. And that is what I did. I kept on listening to what people are saying about the boy child, even I observing what is happening to the boy child. Eventually, I put the material together and looked for illustrations, and that's how I came up with this book. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Now, I'd want to read just a small excerpt of what you have written here, Mr. Macharia, page 56.
Thank you.
You say, help your son to have realistic expectations of himself and come up with realistic goals in life. That is page 56 of this book that has been heavily featuring on our Family Matters segment this morning. How to Help the Boy Child. You know, at a time when the society is keenly focusing on girl empowerment, it's a high time we also went back for the boy child in light of the current situation there, some that have been highlighted here and there. Remember, we are live, and however, we are done with this particular segment on Family Matters. Remember, we are still here, and we invite your feedback. Thank you very much, Geoffrey Watiri there, for your comment in regard to the particular show that we've had. Thank you, Wilson Macharia, for, gracing our studio this morning and sharing that insight in regard to emancipation of the boy child. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a great day ahead. We speak matters of politics in not too long.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
We agreed on many things, none of which you delivered.
You have your life, King.
Jala comes and goes as he pleases, always looking out for the next best thing.
I am about to tell you is nothing but the truth.
Juana, will you be my wife?
How's her blood pressure?
Well, I don't know. I'll take it right now. She's going to die, Francisco. She's going to die.
In love with Ramon.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Well, at about 10 minutes past 8 a.m. Now, I just want us to dive into this area, which I had promised earlier. This is actually around my Mahiu area. Try to see the how it's doing in terms of traffic, given the fact that it's that area where this expansion has really stalled. Remember that today we are just focusing on Nakuru, and I had told you it's because of the continuous expansion of this road, all the way from a single carriage road to a dual carriage road. So whatever it's there right now is actually the 4-lane, and what they're planning to do beginning early next year is to continue to further expand it to make it more of a 6-lane road. Now, this area is just where the process has stalled for the longest time. This is my Mahiu area, just as you leave Nairobi, using the same area, going all the way to Narok, to Nakuru, to Naivasha, to Nakuru. And part of the reason as to why the project has stalled, as it was mentioned by the different bodies responsible for expansion of roads and all the other kind of activities that just go into making the roads look better, is that they mentioned that lack of adequate funds is one of the major reasons why this project has stalled, and it has actually taken a long time. And again, if you're one of those people that tends to use this area or this specific route, probably going to Nakuru or even on the outskirts of Nairobi and counties on the Nyanza or western part of the country, then you can bear witness that around this area it just tends to be very confusing. Sometimes you don't know which route to take. Now, this is actually that specific area, and look at how the traffic is looking like just as you leave by Mahiu, as you head over to the other side of Narok. As I mentioned, it's around this specific area, heading all the way to the other side of Narok, as well as Nakuru on the other side, which is what you're trying to focus on. Now, as you're just leaving Narok, coming all the way through my Mahiu before you get to Nairobi, this is how it is looking like. Traffic on both sides. On both sides, it means as you're leaving the areas of Narok, coming through my Mahiu as you head over to Nairobi, and also just leaving Nairobi as you head over through as you head over to Narok again through my Mahiu. So this is how it is looking like, and the kind of traffic building up is just not those manageable kind of traffic, especially on the lane that is leaving Narok through my Mahiu as you head over to the city of Nairobi. So clearly just what you're spotting from this map is what I've just been trying to mention, that around this area sometimes it tends to be a bit confusing, and also that again results in the kind of traffic gridlock that we're just spotting or even witnessing at this hour and also any other time. But again, the downside is that they haven't mentioned when this process will be complete. All we know is that yes, it's still stalling, and they've just attributed that to the lack of adequate funds. On the other side, though, as you leave Maimahiu coming all the way to the other side of Nakuru, doesn't really look that bad. The beauty is that actually it's on both lanes. So again, if you're leaving western part of the country, if you're leaving Nyanza side of the country, if you're leaving Naivasha, Nakuru, coming to Nairobi this morning hour, then it's not really that bad for you. Just a slight traffic snarl up, especially on the lane that is coming all the way to Nairobi from the areas that I've just mentioned. On the other side, so green all through, moving at a really fast pace. Again, just showing us that whatever project, whatever purpose that wanted to be achieved, but the expansion of this road is actually, just serving that kind of purpose, because clearly as of now, it's those time of the morning hours where we'd expect to see the heavy kind of traffic build up, especially on these areas that I'm just mentioning. But clearly as of now, it doesn't really look that bad, especially just as you're leaving Maimahiu coming through Nakuru. Maimahiu, as you're coming through Nakuru, heading over to those sides that I just mentioned, on those specific lanes, moving really fast, barely any kind of traffic build up there. But again, as I mentioned also, in as much as yes, this is one of those instrumental roads, Maimahiu, Mau Summit, on those corridors there of Salga, just before you get to Nakuru, because of what I mentioned to you earlier, the fact that yes, it's one of those instrumental roads simply because it aids in better transportation of cargo of goods from Nairobi to these counties that again I just mentioned, and also the countries that again also I mentioned through those borders. So yes, in as much as this is why it was expanded at least to aid in that, but also it was reduced on the kind of traffic build up, especially around this area, given the fact that it's one of those busy roads, busy areas, and the reasons I just gave to you earlier. But when it comes to again traffic also moving at a really fast pace next to Gilgil, also before you get to Nakuru, moving really fast, no traffic at all. Next to that famous area, that famous place Kikopey, also no traffic at all, moving pretty fast, green all through as you leave Nakuru coming to Nairobi, and also Nairobi going to the other side of Nakuru. This is just what this color means. So anytime you see green, it just means that yes, there's no traffic, moving at a pretty fast pace. And again, also what I'd mentioned to you is that if at all you're using this specific routes going about any kind of activities or even going outside Nairobi to Nakuru, then it's just a smooth sailing for you. And also what this green means is that we do not need to look for any alternative routes, because it just means that it's a smooth sailing, no traffic at all, moving at a pretty fast pace. And again, it looks like things are not changing at all, so it's just a smooth sailing, which is again very interesting, because remember that oftentimes you keep saying that traffic changes every single minute. So at times, yes, it could be looking this good, the next minute is just heavy kind of traffic, but clearly as of now, barely any kind of traffic all the way past Gilgil, past also Maimahiu on the other side, moving really fast all the way to the city of to Nakuru town. But before you continue trying to look at traffic again in this area, I just want to show you that image of how the town is looking like. So this is how Nakuru town looks like. This is actually the heart of, at the heart of the city there. You can just clearly see from these images, this expansion process, how it's really came along. And also the fact that on the other side, at the farthest end, we still have those things that I keep mentioning to you all the time, anytime we look at new roads and how the process of construction has been coming along, which is the non-motorized transport system. So what this means that, yes, in as much as expanding the roads to make it easy for vehicles, both public and private, they are also ensuring that pedestrians and cyclists have an easy movement as they're going about any kind of activity. So also this one, it was inclusive of that, which is the pedestrian walkways as well as the cyclist lanes. And again, also what you're trying to see from this project is that whatever Kenyan Urban Roads Authorities and KenHa are doing is not just to look at recarpeting or even just making roads in Nairobi better, but that is extended further on to different towns, different counties, and a case in point is this Nakuru, which is what you're trying to look at this morning when it comes to traffic. So this specific area which you are seeing is actually this area on the map. So this is that specific area just as you leave the city center coming next to this roundabout. This is actually the roundabout in Nakuru, just as you join or come to Nakuru town. And look at that, how this roundabout is looking like. I mean, it's just like what we wouldn't expect to see, especially around roundabouts. It's just green all through, meaning that there's no traffic at all. It's unlike what we normally spot in Nairobi town or Nairobi city, because oftentimes, especially around roundabouts, the kind of traffic around roundabouts usually becomes very unbearable because, again, of the obvious reasons. Roundabouts connects to a number of roads, and clearly it is not different from this specific one, because this around just the Nakuru roundabout connecting to Joffrey Avenue on the other side, as well as just coming to Mburugishua Road, just going all the way to the estates around Nakuru town, as well as coming from Nairobi, going again to Nakuru. So clearly, again, one of those, major roundabouts, if I can mention. But when it comes to traffic, barely any kind of traffic, just green all through. Whilst a bit of a traffic is on that specific road, just before you get to the roundabout as you leave Nairobi. But again, also in as much as, yes, there's traffic there, but it's also a manageable kind of traffic. So it's really so unlike how we'd see in Nairobi, because as of this hour, I can tell you for sure, when you look at Nairobi, especially around major roundabouts in the city, the kind of traffic really unbearable. So again, just trying to show us that, yes, whatever, purpose that it was trying to serve when it came to the expansion of this specific route, this specific road, clearly is serving its purpose. Again, also just leaving the roundabout as you head over to Nairobi, also a smooth sailing. And that's why I was mentioning earlier, if at all you are leaving the counties of the western part or Nyanza part of the country, or even just leaving Nakuru, then coming to Nairobi, that is, then again, it's just a smooth sailing for you, because you see, where you're seeing green actually is after leaving the roundabout, going all the way to Nairobi. Now, where you're seeing the bit of orange is when you're leaving Nairobi, coming all the way to Nakuru. So clearly, that's how it's looking like in terms of traffic, at least not looking that bad. And also what it means is that we don't have to look for any alternative routes for those going about, in different areas in Nakuru town. Yes? And that's how it's looking.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the only way to start your day. Good morning, Kenya. In case you're just joining us, this is KBC Channel 1. The show is GMK, and my name is Samuel Njoroge. Now, let's begin a conversation around, yes, you got it right, on Iron Politics today, because of that event that is happening at the Bomas of Kenya, where the public will now get access to the Mbimbi High. We need to talk about that document. It was launched sometime last week, a day after Mashujaa Day, and I've got a powerful panel to let us know what their thoughts are about this particular issue. Daniel Orogo, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Always it is. Every Monday.
The weather is
very unfriendly.
Very unfriendly.
I know it affected one of us.
No, he's a season late comer.
No, it affected one of us. He got a brief that the show is beginning at 8, graciously walks in at 8:12. I'm talking about President Kingston. Advice. Graciously walk in at 8:12. Who does that? No, it has nothing to do with government. We need to change your neighborhood. Is the neighborhood kukinyesha kidogo, traffic sijui inafika wapi? I don't know, the inconveniences from here to Timbuktu and back. We're changing that, okay? It's our advice. That's why we're your friends.
But I'm here and the show is just starting.
That's why we are your friends. Boy club. Frederick.
Yes.
Sosia. Exactly. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And gentlemen, before we even get to the BBI report, and we invite your thoughts on this discussion, hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. Coincidentally, as we are talking about constitutional reforms, you remember the chair of the Committee of Experts, Zamba Kitunga, senior counsel. He passed on over the weekend. And I'd like just to open a minute or two to you, gentlemen, to just share your thoughts about this man, what you remember him for, even as we continue with the discussion around BBI advice.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, and my apologies for for being the person who had to come a bit late. So actually my heartfelt condolences to the family and friends. And of course, the good professor did a lot of work for this country in terms of just steering our constitutional processes. And he has been able to move our country from stage to stage. And so it is a sad moment, not just for his family and friends, but for the country as a whole.
Yeah.
And we just wish to join the rest in giving our messages of condolence. And the best way we'll be able to remember him is to ensure that whatever he was able to steer our country to, that we don't retrogress, we only try and ensure that we progress going forward.
Nice. I was a bit afraid you will say the best way you can remember him ni kupitisha BBI. But you know, watu wasome hii document. By the way, watu wasome. Frederick, what do you remember of this gentleman?
A legend has fallen, and it is just condolences to the family. And Zamba served this country from LSK. He came to the Constitutional Review Committee. He has served in different other capacities, including in the academia platform. So he's a man that we are going to remember going forward. And just to keep his legacy, we should continue by the constitutional reforms in the right way, as he had started it. And his participation laid a very good framework for us to continue. And he has gone at a moment where we are speaking about BBI. So it is a good dispensation that going forward, we keep his legacy in ensuring we amend the Constitution in the right way.
Nice. Daniel?
Well, I think I also agree that, you know, the nation has woken up to very, you know, disturbing news. The passing of such a personality of Zamba Kitunga's stature is, you know, right now very unfortunate. I remember one of his, you know, latest interviews. What he actually alluded to is the fact that we would be very critically look into the contents of the Building Bridges initiative. And from all the positions he's served into, you know, in different capacities, one thing that comes out that, he was benevolent in his act and, selfless leader who put the interest of the country forward. And that his efforts led to the birthing of the Constitution that we are talking about right now. What really is sad is that when we are now exposed to constitutional moments right now, where his contribution would be more needed by this time, that is unfortunate that, that is the time that we have, heard and witnessed his demise. So I also join friends and colleagues and family members at this hour, of need, and pass my sincere condolences to the nation and to the East African region where he held, different positions and served with dignity and discharged his duties with distinction.
And I feel like this would have been an opportune time or would have benefited from his expertise. He was the chair of the Committee of Experts and he delivered quite a lot in as far as the realization of the 2010 Constitution. But you know what? Respect to the fallen and our condolences to the friends, family of the late Senior Counsel Zamba Kitunga. But gentlemen, today an event will be happening at the Bomas of Kenya, and that is the public but the public presentation of the BBI document, something that has been, touted as a document that will see the country go through a third liberation. I'd like to begin with you, Advice. What are you looking forward to, even as we begin the process for a likely constitutional reform in the country?
I think I'm looking forward to, first of all, a very peaceful event at the Bomas of Kenya today. I'm also looking forward to a situation whereby there will be very little politicking about the BBI, and the event will focus more on just ensuring that the people get to understand what exactly is into the BBI, because we have a lot of concentration in this country on the politics of everything than necessarily the content of it. And so I'm expecting that far from the politics and the side shows that always come with this kind of events, there will be a bit of concentration on the content, on the document, that at the end of the event today in Bomas, the ordinary mwananchi, not just the elites, not just the scholars, but the very ordinary Kenyan will be able to really understand why this moment is important and why this is a moment that they should be able to look forward to. So I really look forward to such kind of an event.
So no politics at all, be it non-verbal or verbal communication.
I really wish that the event will be non-political and will be driven on content. I really wish.
Yeah.
Whether it will be like that, I don't know.
Story for another day.
But it's my wish that it's non-political, it's more focused and it's more objective.
Okay, Frederick.
Today at Bomas, it is going to be a lot of politics. It will not be about the document because you expect the deputy president will be attending. His friends are going to attend as well.
He may attend.
Definitely, if you look at this, the way he has been speaking of late, he's going to attend.
Amekosa conference ya COVID. Pia yeye anaweza decide.
Anyway, we can.
It is what it is.
He might. He
But
might
go
miss,
on.
but my expectation is he's going to attend, and when he attends, his friends will be given time to speak, and they'll try and turn the discussion to the political side of it. It will not be about the content of BBI. You will hear them give ultimatums like, we are going to support this document if you allow us to talk and also give our submissions. But you understand, previously there was a moment to give submission, they failed. So they just want to hijack the whole process with the politics. And one advice I can give to Kenyans is tujisome. If you depend on in Bomas and other politicians to try and break down this document for you, then you'll get it wrong. Just speak it, read it, and you'll get the contents.
If you want to hide something from Kenyans, put it in a book. Put it in a book. But let me hear from you, Daniel.
Well, I think the process today is not a process that is anchored in the Constitution of Kenya. We begin to mention that this is, if we talk about the constitutional processes, they are really outlined in Article 255 until Article 257. We haven't seen this process anchored into that kind of a process. So it remains to be a process that is organized, that is not a national process, but is purely a political process. Let us agree. I agree with Saskia that today is going to mark a lot of political undertones in that event because it's a political event, so you don't exclude politics from taking center stage to it. Secondly, well, my presumption is like the BBI process. One of the talking points or one of the agendas within is an inclusion agenda. And by its appearance, the semblance of it would be that we would witness that the leaders are included. Whether you have a contrary opinion or not, the issue is that you would be invited to speak about it because it is exposing us to a national conversation. So my expectation is that all the leaders who are going to be invited and attending the meeting would portray some semblance of inclusion, would allow diversity of opinions, and above all, and I agree with what my colleagues say, that we are at a process where we are putting the document to be interrogated by Kenyans. And Kenyans would read with their, with their eyes and their heart opened, that their interests are taken care of in the document. And nobody and all of us would be keen enough to portray what you believe. If your interest is not catered into the documents, let us come out and say it is not. If it is there and we say it is. So I think for right now, we will not sit at the panel and say I am opposed to it or I am supporting it. The process is it is going to be unveiled, it was unveiled, and is going to be put to the public today to begin a process of reading and interrogation. So that is it for today.
So in terms of fruits, the breakfast we serve on Ion Politics is watermelon. We don't oppose it, we don't agree with it. We look at the critical issues, right? But we'll be answering some critical questions after this break. Key among them, why support the BBI? And on the flip side, why not support the BBI? And Baba was in Western, I guess, on Thursday, Friday, and a comment was made. Ata kama mtasoma, mkumbuke Baba ashaso. Okay. All that and much more. The politics around the BBI after this short break.
People gonna say all kind of things about you.
Wait them on. Just shake up. Need to mushia one, done to mushia one. When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180.
Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop in it.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Get the pago, get the pago, get the pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya, tekenya katoto.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You are filled with greed and selfishness.
What?
You are right. For the first time, you have made such a big mistake in recognizing someone.
Ashok! Ashok! Ashok!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
The whole situation makes me anxious.
And you'll have to learn to deal with that. The worst thing you can do is give us away.
Are you rejecting me, Ramon? If Fabiola hadn't come into the picture between you and me, I'm sure we would be living together.
Fabiola didn't come between us.
Listen to me, they might kill you. My husband's name is Rogelio Arauz. What is going on out here? Please don't do this to me.
Why not, Fabiola? If I love you, I can't go on keeping my silence anymore.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Welcome back to the program, and we invite you to be a part of this discussion at KBC Channel 1 at Sam W. Njoroge, hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Let us know what your thoughts are about the document that will be presented to the public today. We are talking about the Building Bridges Initiative. Actually, the major dailies in the country today have got a pullout of that particular document, and it's just been summarized into some of the critical issues, and these are things that we shall be dissecting right here on the show. My panel is sort of split. There are those who are expecting the politics. There are those who do not expect the politics, or at least they wish it will not be there. There are those who are sitting on the fence. Don't I have a panel today? Gentlemen, karibuni sana. Karibuni sana. But honestly, advice, when you look at the process towards, actually, let me begin with Daniel before I come to your advice, because you said that people to be invited to the table and give their views. We've had a steering committee that has been going around the country that has invited people to do exactly that, present their views. Why choose to present them now? You had a chance to do that way back.
Well, I think what I referred to was the fact that when you're invited to today, if you're lucky, or if you're invited by the virtue of being a leader to give your comments about, the report, You saw the event that happened last time at Bomas of Kenya, and when some leaders were speaking, they were jeering from behind. You know, I think the participants either decided to be hostile or the fact that, you know, they were not being popular by their presentation. But I think the issue is that the perception about some leaders is automatically that they are going to oppose the report.
Is that the perception, though?
That is the perception.
Because the launching of the projects and the church harambes is where the opinion was being cast. But we literally had a steering committee, okay?
Yeah.
And some of those that have been opposed to the BBI or the process they are in, be it directly or indirectly, is the deputy president. Being the second in command, he's had an opportunity to present his views. He's had an opportunity to rise to the occasion. Why now, when the document is already ready?
Well, what I'm saying is that if you are invited to give your comments about the report, you know, right now, it would be very, very, very unfair to the steering committee to say that I already want to make my proposal so and so.
Oh, I have terms and conditions.
I have terms and conditions, which I think that would barely and lay towards, you know, the Kenyan populace, not really the political class as we speak. One thing that I'm calling upon is if we are having a document that highlights on the importance of inclusivity and talks about tolerance, then it should be reflected in the unveiling today. That is what I'm saying.
Something that we have not witnessed.
Something that we haven't witnessed before. I saw the presentation by, you know, Professor Adams Olo, who happens to be my lecturer before. One of the things that he talked about very elaborately, and that I agree with it, is that when the steering committee was going through the counties, you know, factoring the presentation from various leaders, opinion leaders, religious leaders, the political class, and, you know, the business community, one of the issues that stands out is that, you know, this is not a document in finality. He said that, you know, as even we proceed, we have some form of flexibility, so that all Kenyans would give their view. But now delving into this, I think you probably you'll give us time. The show would give us time to highlight, because even as we read, we have seen that there are inconsistencies in some of these, you know, in some of these proposals.
Yeah, but when you talk about
amending 58 articles, you know, and a number of chapters that are critical to the fabric of this country, that requires a national conversation, a critical debate, which I think the panel, the platform will give us time to delve into.
Okay, Daniel, we will give you the platform, but remember, when you talk about flexibility and all that, remember Baba Amesoma, Nakisha Soma. I don't know. And at that breath, manze, to see betray continuity, your camera is this one. I want to come to your advice.
Yes.
If the BBI is about inclusivity, why is there a perception that it has left out the deputy president?
I think some from the submission of Dan, you could be able to see how much struggle he was having to just try and make the issues of the deputy president look like they can fit into something that can actually make sense. Because when we talk about inclusivity, which is one of the primary pillars of the BBI, you cannot be included when you are actually refusing to be included. Because what the deputy president has gone on doing, he has been on a rant every other day against government processes, including the BBI. We have seen him go to hold meetings, including yesterday, where he is speaking against the BBI. So it is not about the process failing to include him. It is about him intentionally ensuring that he is not included, because then that speaks to his political side. When I look at the activities of the deputy president, I see 100% politics in all of them. And it is very intentional. And I don't think the deputy president is interested in being included in this process, because he has seen that the side of the bread that is buttered politically for him is when he is not included. So he is on this campaign trail where he keeps saying we should be included, but he keeps acting in a manner to ensure that he's not included, so that he keeps winning some sympathy vote and just keeps confusing the country. So in as much as we are talking about inclusivity,
anataka kupitia katikati yao.
More or less so, because you know, at the end of the day, Sam, if you want this panel to be inclusive, and Dan doesn't want to be inclusive, no matter how much you try, he will still act as if
this show entertains the freedom of speech and expression, and everyone is allowed to have a stand.
It's not about me.
And that is why I cannot allow the discourse between Advice and Daniel to override the interest of Frederick. So we need to go there. Frederick, in terms of, to what extent this document could be inclusive, and even that aside, how do we separate it from the politics? It could be a good document, but it is overridden by the politics. Or it could be a document that is not sufficient enough, but it benefits from the document. So how do we protect that from happening?
Dan, I first have to correct something. Today's event is not about public submission. Today is about the public launch of the document. When we say that we want to allow politicians to give the submissions into an alternative view of them wanting it to be included in the document, then you are getting it wrong. It's all about the public launch for the public to get access to the document. But then you cannot separate politics and BBI and all constitutional review processes, because everything a politician advocates for, it is normally led to personal interest. And the personal interest of a politician is the politics. So you cannot tell a politician to advocate for change without having politics in it. And you realize even in the document, it captures political ambitions. It captures the will of politicians. That's why you get some saying no and some saying yes. And about inclusivity, I want to tell you that we have a group that is opposed to the document, and I want to relate them to a situation I want to call semantic priming. They were exposed to a previous narrative that the document is going to create positions for person A and person B, that person A doesn't want to retire. And after the document came out, they realized that is not there. So the whole group is now confused. They are confused, and yet their mind was previously conjured by the document is about two guys.
Is this group a section of people or like the entire country?
Not really.
This is the reason why I'm asking this question.
It is a faction of leaders.
This is the reason why I'm asking this question, and I would like the panel, whoever would like to go in first. This one I'll throw to you. The reason, or one of the selling points for the 2010 Constitution, is because we were told devolution is going to increase inclusivity. There will be proper division of the national cake. We don't even need to start talking about division of revenue. We've seen what has gone into that. Daniel, I'm still talking. I'm still posing my question.
Please.
Now we are being told expanding the executive is going to bring inclusion.
Exactly.
What will it take to find and achieve inclusion in the country if devolution that was touted in 2010 was not sufficient enough? How confident are we that the expansion of the executive is going to achieve the same?
Well, you see, my two gentlemen, and I think I would want to tell them the fact that while I haven't read the whole document, but the far that I've read this document, I would submit to you that there is no interest of Mwananchi that is taken care of in that document. And this I would say without trying to contradict myself. First of all, Frederick Sassia, let me tell you that I agree that it is a political process. Kenyan citizens have not had the opportunity to avail and to receive these documents. Today, they are having an opportunity to see it. What would you expect? It's not a group of people who are positioning themselves to oppose the documents. One of the things that happens is that there has never been a conversation about the Kenyan interest in these documents. And let me tell you, if there was that group that Frederick is alluding to, then that group is true to what
I have two questions for you, Daniel.
To what they were proposing.
So far, I have two.
Yes.
When I'm seated here, I'm like a viewer. I listen to you the way a viewer will listen to you. And right now, I'm very sure viewers are asking themselves this question, courtesy of what you've said so far. All right?
Yes.
So let me just interject respectfully. You begin by saying that you may have not read the document, all of it.
Yes.
I doubt there's anyone who has, other than those walipewa copies, Kisi. na wenye tunaiona sahi kwa gazeti for the first time, and it will be endorsed or publicly launched today, you can say you haven't read all of it, then you say it's not inclusive enough. You need to finish reading it, then decide whether it's inclusive. And the second point, okay, jitetee kwa hiyo kwanza, and then we move on to the second one.
Listen. I read this through with an angle of the 9-point agenda, what was mentioned. And when I'm alluding to matters of inclusivity, shared prosperity, they're talking about, you know, how then do we look into the issues of devolution. Let me tell you, the proposals that are made, and this is why I said, if we would have this time at this panel to discuss about this, you know, and you asked very well, if you are talking about inclusivity, we are having documents that were here before some. You know, it's all about looking at equitable sharing of resources, taking into consideration those who are marginalized. Tell me, how would expanding the executive only as a way of bringing inclusivity, how would, for example, providing 7 years tax holidays or tax, you know, for youth, provide an avenue for equitable sharing, you know, for shared prosperity and cushioning the effect, you know, of youth unemployment, of all these things.
There has been a narrative.
That's what I'm telling you.
There has been a narrative.
You know, adding to the number of legislatures,
done,
both
and I would like
at the National Assembly, at the Senate.
I would like you to point down this. There has been a narrative that why the uptake of loans and all these funds that we've been given to the young people has been low over time is because, yes, utanipatia pesa, but the enabling environment to exercise trade and facilitate repayment of this loan, itakuwa shida. Why? Our tax regime. And maybe that is the reasoning behind the tax holidays. But we'll still ponder on that. I would like to come to you, Advice, on this particular front.
Today you're interjecting too much.
No, it's just that we need to have a proper conversation one step at a time. Advice, if this is a document that is to bring inclusivity, politically so, why is that elusive as we speak? And how do we counter that?
Inclusivity, some in this country has kept being elusive, I think, since independence, because of political interests. And in as much as it has been so, it would be unfair of us to more or less hate and over-criticize the process that we've gotten to under the BBI, because everything cannot be as bad as we would want, as we want to put it. Yes, there were aspects of devolution, and of course devolution has had its ups and downs, but we must be able to accept that devolution has been able to move this country several steps up, because right now there is a lot of resource that is down at the mashinani level, and so we are just talking about legislation that can be able to ensure that the mwananchi gets 100% of what they ought to get, but at least they are getting something. So we are steps in the right direction. And in terms of the expansion of the executive and how it can be able to create inclusivity, in as much as I agree that the principal problem this country has had is the problem of dishonesty in election, where there is always the problem of we don't know who won or who lost the election. But again, you will agree with me that there is always the perception that once someone wins the election, then it is a community that is in office. It is the community that that person comes from that is in office. Whether that is true or not, it is the perception that has always been there. So we have always had, when Moi was president, it is perceived that the Kalenjin community is benefiting more than the rest. When Mwai Kibaki is in office, it is perceived that the Kikuyu community is benefiting more. And for you to be able to solve a problem, you must start by facing the reality. That is the political reality in this country. And that is what is informing the process of the BBI, where we want an expanded executive that will be able to be all-inclusive of at least the major communities in this country. Because at the end of the day, there is a rooted perception inside the country that service delivery and that being in government is about having one of your own at that place. Whether that makes sense or not, that is the reality.
Let me equally interject your advice, because when someone hits a point, let's deal with it first.
Exactly.
The clamor to independence was the Lancaster House conferences, the first and the second, that gave us our independence constitution. The clamor for a constitution gave the government breath to come in place. Am I right, gentlemen?
You're right.
Very right.
A similar situation happened in 2002 when Kibaki promised a constitution in 100 days. Then his then Justice Minister, Kiraito Murungi, at some point said that, yes, we promised 100 days, but not 100 consecutive days. You remember that statement? Yeah, let's take a step at a time.
Yeah.
The reason why we had the National Accord and Reconciliation Act was to amend some of the things that were a bit off with the Constitution, and of course to accommodate a coalition government. We are back here again in 2020, and we're still having a conversation on constitutional reform.
Yeah.
Frederick, is there more than meets the eye?
You see, we have to accept the reality. The constitution amendment process is a continuous process. Even after BBI, we will still have another discourse to change the constitution. We should not pretend that we have a conclusive change of constitution. Now we have a perfect constitution. Times keep changing, and when times change, you expect other people to come in with new proposals. Even if BBI passes today, some few years down the line, another group of people will come and will be proposing change in the constitution.
So just to interject a bit, and I'm still on you, Frederick, is then the problem the constitution or constitutionalism?
Both, because you understand, to have a complete constitution, not really even a complete constitution, to have a constitution that captures the mind of everyone, it should be changing over time. We cannot pretend that we're going to have a constitution that changed 10 years ago and going to serve us the next 100 years, because times are changing, situations are changing. But you also realize those people who are telling us the 2010 constitution was bad and people were supposed to reject the constitution, are now telling us the BBI document is also bad and people should also reject it. And now they're now lauding the 2010 document. How comes these people never see good when that document is being launched, but they only see good several years down the line? That tells you it is politics. No one is saying no to the document because it is bad. And no one is saying yes to the document because probably it serves their interests. These people are purely about politics. And that's what I'm saying. The better part of it is you and me to read. And when you read, Dan alludes that expanding the executive does not heal the country. But let me remind Dan, when you have the leader of opposition, who is the person, who is the runners up to the presidential election, sitting in parliament, that heals a lot. Because the millions of people he represents feels that we are inclusive. We've had a situation in this country whereby there's been a situation where there's a tussle between government and parliament. And now you realize BBI is saying they're bringing back the parliament. You're having a prime minister, we're having the two deputies and even the deputy president, and we're also having the minister sitting in parliament. That heals a situation whereby we are seeing like the revenue bill being a tussle between the parliament and the government.
Frederick, and before you come in, Dan, because the interest of this show is to separate the document from the politics. And you talk about inclusivity, right, Frederick?
Yes.
I'd like to take you back to a case in time during the coalition government when there was a very big argument on who should be the leader of government business in the National Assembly. And the tussle was between, is it Kalonzo Musyoka or is it Raila Odinga? And in his Solomonic wisdom, Kenneth Marende said, until you sort that out, I remain to be the leader of government business. So I will pose this question to you, Frederick. How do we separate? Because this document could be good, but it is overridden by the politics. Again, it may not be sufficient, because at Ujasoma, we will do that. It may not be sufficient, but then it benefits from the politics. How do we protect the country from losing out on an opportunity?
Benefits who?
Listen, let's have Frederick first.
What happened during the Nusumkate government is that accord did not really define the roles of the prime minister and the roles of the deputy president. But BBI is very clear. It
Vice president back then.
Sorry?
Back then it was vice president.
Yes, the vice president. But now, you realize BBI has defined the roles of the two. At no point will you get them now clashing for roles. The Prime Minister, the leader of business in Parliament. And that is very clear. The Deputy President, or the Vice President, or the Deputy President is now the principal assistant to the President.
So in that regard, the document becomes valid. Can we agree on that?
On that point.
No. In that regard, we are saying that there will be clear separation of powers and understanding of roles such that none is going to override the other.
Yes.
And the reason I'm saying this, Dan, I'm coming to you. Najua unasikia kama umefinyiliwa sana, lakini tunakuja. The reason I'm asking this is if you go through the dailies today, for example, I'll make reference to the Standard. It's saying, Uhuru dares the DP to walk the talk. Why? The president slams his deputy for making promises to Kenyans when he's part of the government and not helping deliver the Jubilee agenda. In the interest of balance, it also captures this headline, Ruto to face his demons in Bomas today. And the question is, tuende ama aende asiende. Let me be careful about saying two. I'm not there. Aende asiende. And they're asking, all roads lead to Bomas today for the official launch of the BBI report. Ruto has made his reservations public and his allies opposing the report. Will he show up? I'm just thinking the 2010 Constitution has clear definition of who the Deputy President is and who the President is. Why is there appearing to be a confusion that has generated so much politics around even the relationship between the president and his deputy, and will that be cured by the BBI?
And two gentlemen will struggle to explain. No. Let me say this, okay? Let me say this. One of the problems that we are discussing here is that, again, I would say we have not put the interest of Kenyans at heart in this document. And this, I say still with brevity that is required.
By design or by default?
Now, listen, Sam. We are here talking about the expanding of the executive. And again, you've alluded to, and Fred has not explained why this is required. If that is not only a process of inclusion. Let me tell you, Sam. Like you've alluded to, we had the Grand Coalition government, that there was a lot of hiccups here and there. It did not cure what we had by that time. One of the issues that we failed to capture with this moment of constitutional discussion, one, we have had reports that touch barely about the interests of the citizens. A Cumuland report. It's not nowhere to be captured. It does not be mentioned. The TJRC report has not been, had not been captured into this. So what we are doing right now is that we are trying. Done? Listen, I have so far that I have read some. Let me tell you this. So far that I have read, and these are my own, these opinions that are titled to me.
I'm going to ask you this.
Okay, these are my opinions that are titled to me. When we are talking about inclusion, we are talking about shared prosperity. We are talking about administrative function and political function in this constitution.
We need a break.
We are not looking at what cures and what is the interest of
We've got some bills to pay, so we need to do that right now. But Dan, you can't say that those interests have not been captured, yet you've not seen the entire document yet. Because it's been a matter of media consumption. Right? So we're going to do a break now. Director? Okay, let's take that break and then we return with much more.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
We agreed on many things, none of which you delivered.
You have your life, King.
Jala comes and goes as he pleases, always looking out for the next best thing.
I'm about to tell you is nothing but the truth.
Juana, will you be my wife?
How's her blood pressure?
Well, I don't know. I'll take it right now. She's going to die, Francisco. She's going to die.
In love with Ramon.
Outside my window, pouring down. What now?
The background noise you hear is very much valid because even as we went for the break, they never took a break. Okay? They've been asking all two critical questions, and Dan will probably answer them, because the first one he needs to answer is, he says that Kenyans' interests have not been captured in this document, but we had a steering committee that went around the country collecting views. So have we delegated too much to the political class to a point where we Kenyans are no longer responsible for the quality of our lives? That is a conversation we need to look at, but I'd like to move to advice. In terms of getting back to Bomas and what will be happening therein, we saw some unfortunate political undertones happen when the steering committee was handing in their report. Do you feel that there has been a gravitation towards sobriety to just allow this document at least experience its due in time?
I think there is a lot of goodwill on this document in terms of most of the Kenyans. But there is also a lot of struggle by some part of the political class to ensure that this document is as political as possible. Because whether this document goes through or not is not supposed to be a win for any kind of politician. It is supposed to be a voice of the Kenyans, so that when Kenyans reject the document, no one should feel like then they have won. When Kenyans accept the document, no one is supposed to feel that then they have won, because this should be basically about Kenyans. But for some reason, there is a lot of struggle to ensure that there is a lot of politics into this document. And that's why you alluded when you asked about why we seem not to be running away from the politics of this document. And one thing that amazes me is you will discover that people who are allied to the deputy president are all rejecting the document. And then people who are allied to the other faction are all accepting the document. Now, both of these two factions are making these decisions without having read the document. That shows you that people are more interested in the politics about this document and not necessarily the content inside that document. Because I don't understand how when you are objective in reading a document, you will all agree with your leader. Because at some point, when we are talking about being objective and when we are honest with ourselves, then one person who agrees with the deputy president would at some point feel, no, but this one then, I would want to agree with the document.
At least there is something.
At least there should be someone from the other side.
Document.
And there should be someone from the Kieleweke camp who would feel, no, after reading this document, I feel I don't agree with it. But you realize that all the camps have their arms up, and all the lieutenants are in the direction of the leaders. That shows you that the problem that we are having in this country is our leadership, our politicians, and the elite. Because the elite have refused to just accept and read this document. And I like what you've kept telling Dan, because Dan has not read the document, but he has informed opinion about the document.
That is not inclusive.
And when you listen to Dan, you hear mildly, you hear the deputy president, you hear the words conversation, you hear the words robust conversation, you mildly hear the deputy president. And Dan is a very educated human being. I would want to dare say that brains of the caliber of Dan should not be part of the misleading of this country. They should be part of the conversation that should be able to lead this country the best way. Because when these guys say they want a good conversation, you wonder, we have been having a conversation ever since BBI was launched. Which conversation do they want now?
Gentlemen, and I'd like to come to you, Frederick, because anytime from now we can wind up and head to Bomas, because the event is about to start. One of the reasons why we had skirmishes in 2007, 2008 was a referendum we had in 2000. You remember the yes-no?
Yes.
You remember the yes-no camps? And there is the fear that if we do not treat this the right way, kutakuwa na shida. How do we protect Kenya from walking down that road again? That is concern number one. And how do we ensure that the commitment, even by the president, to unite the country is realized? How do we separate the BBI from the politics? We need to cross over to the Bomas of Kenya. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. We right here, we shall be interrogating this document as soon as we receive it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Indeed, good morning Kenya and good morning Sam Joroge back at Broadcasting House. Indeed, we are at the Bomas of Kenya where it's about 9 a.m. and in the next 40 minutes or so, we are expecting that the President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Premier Raila Odinga will officially launch the Building Bridges report. And indeed, the 204-page book is right here. And perhaps to give you a feel of what is happening now is that the section that I'm standing is where the members of Parliament are supposed to be seated when the document will be unveiled officially by the two leaders. Behind me, as you can see, the choirs are have already started to entertain the numerous guests that have already started trickling down, some of whom were here as early as 6 a.m. Of course, outside, I can tell you for a fact, a cold and chilly morning here at the Bomas of Kenya, but something that is really standing out is the number of people and delegates that are expected to grace this event today, any moment from 10 a.m. I can tell you for a fact is that security has really been beefed up, and hundreds, if not thousands of delegates are still outside being cleared by the security agencies here at the Bomas of Kenya. Remember, this is where it all started before we promulgated the constitution in the year 2010. What we are expecting, actually, other than the dignitaries and the numerous guests, are the delegates from the 47 counties. Of course, it has been touted that 5,000 to 6,000 people are expected, not inside the Bomas of Kenya. You do remember that there is the COVID-19 protocols, of course, announced by the Ministry of Health. And as you can see, the seats are scattered or are arranged in a form that will ensure that the 1 meter distance is being observed at various points. And of course, a lot of sanitation, and of course, you cannot come in here without donning a mask, and I had to actually to also carry my own. I can tell you for a fact is that today's event is supposed to be a really big event in terms of the Kenyan Constitution. You do remember the amendments by the Building Bridges initiative started about 2.5 years after after the famous handshake at the Harambee House by the President and the former Premier Raila Odinga, which started out a 14-member task force, after which they sat down and, of course, toured all the 47 counties to ensure that all the recommendations have been factored in and the document. Of course, remember the President and the former Premier are always calling on Kenyans since Wednesday last week at the State Lodge in Kisii, where they were handed over the report, calling on Kenyans not to let other people read for them. Grab a copy, read it, understand it, because as they said, it's not about them, it's about the welfare of the 47-point-something million Kenyans. So other than the choirs, the other choirs that will be entertaining guests as we wait for all the dignitaries to be seated. Remember, outside there are numerous tents to accommodate hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who will be in attendance today. And of course, we will be here to keep you afloat on what to expect in this event. The event starts officially at 10 a.m. Back to you, Sam.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You are filled with greed and selfishness.
What?
You are right. For the first time, you have made such a big mistake in recognizing someone.
Ashok! Ashok! Ashok!
Mother!
People gonna say all kind of things about you.
Wait them on. Just shake up your man. Zungushia and done zungushia. When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy.
Trago ya la botella. Let's go.
Ha, I needed some with some bop in. Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Te pago, que te pago, que te pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Pequeña katoto, camini pequeña, pequeña katoto.
Welcome back. Good morning, Kenya continues. Eye on Politics will just be back in a short while because we'll be crossing over to Bomas again in that short while. But before we get to do all of that, I want us to talk briefly about giving back to the community. And joining me live is Isaac Kuria, who is the founder and president of Miles of Great Hope Foundation. Isaac, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Doreen.
All right,
good morning, Kenya. Good morning, everybody.
All right. Now, I want you to tell us very, very quickly what Miles of Great Hope is all about. What does it do? How does it give back to the community?
Yeah, Bomas of Great Hope is a non-profit organization, non-political. We have non-paid volunteers, members. We've been in existence about going to 10 years now. Our vision is to revive, empower, and sustain hopes for the communities, impoverished communities who lack some of the 3 basic things in our categorizing of what is more important, and that takes clean water, health sanitation, that's hygiene, and also education. So those are the three prongs, and we give back by trying to create impact, sustainability, and of course the communities we serve, taking ownership of the project and being able to be a partnership and leverage on that.
Okay. Now, Isaac, Miles of Great Hope has been in existence for a period of 10 years now. And just as you broke it down for us, some of the activities that you do, especially when it comes to matters health, sanitation, as well as education. Now, I think I'd want you to just, better break it down for us, some of the achievements that have been made so far in this period of 10 years when it comes to giving back to the society.
Yeah, we have worked with different communities. Mostly we have focused in Kajiado, just because of the nature of that side of the country. As you can imagine, according to the data out there, 56% of our population lacks access to clean water, and that's approximately of 80% of illnesses which are preventable are caused by lack of this good clean water. So in the past, we have been able to work with Ilbisil Township Primary School. We donated a tank. We have our ultimate goal of sinking a well that requires a lot of money. We have also worked with the Ilbisil Girls High School in Ilbisil, and we revitalized a water borehole that wasn't quite working properly, and we were able to, support the school with that clean water element, and population of more than 600 girls or students, and the community of teachers and the rest are able to, have that clean water that helps them to achieve their goals in education.
All right.
We've also worked in Nakuru. We've helped with education. We have a young lady who is now pursuing her degree at Kenya Polytechnic University. It's a project that we've taken since she out there. 2 years ago, we all heard about the Patel Dam in Solai, Subukia area in Nakuru. And we stepped in. There were some deaths reported, and our organization found it feasible to step in and do something. So again, we donated a tank. We have a video. We have a lot of information on our website.
Okay.
We're also currently working on a project to revitalize another older borehole that is not working, population of more than 1,200 students. And so it's a work in progress.
All right. Now, with all the things that you do at Miles of Good Hope, and yes, you've talked about the health, you've talked about, the sanitation itself, and also the education. So what is so special about the water? What is so special about sanitation that, yes, in as much as you do all of this, but you have a special interest in this specific one, sanitation water? What makes it so important?
Yeah, we think water is an umbrella, a holistic array that kind of helps the hygiene, the sanitation to be kind of resolved, and also the education. For example, without clean water in a school setting, you have issues with kids cannot wash their hands when they use the bathroom. That's a sanitation, especially with this time of COVID-19. As a matter of fact, this year we just finished another project. We want to thank and acknowledge Bishop Moses, who we worked with, leveraged, and we donated some money, and we were able to give some bucket of water that people can wash their hands during this COVID-19 situation. So the water becomes the very top of everything. It has solved the sanitation issues, the hygienic issues. It has solved the education, because the kids can drink this clean water. At least, even if they didn't have enough to eat, they can at least be able to concentrate and not drink unsanitary water and get sick. I want to give you a very quick synopsis of a report here.
Okay.
That according to United Nations International Children Emergency Fund, UNICEF, it classifies Kenya as a chronically water scarce country due to having one of the lowest natural water replenishment rates per capita per annum globally. Only 56% of population has access to safe water, and approximately 80% of illnesses requiring hospitalization in the country is due to preventable diseases. About 50% of these illnesses are water, sanitation, and hygiene related. You find that because of this issue, we're having families spend so much time in hospitals, spending so much of their little money to cure some waterborne diseases, while all of that could be prevented. And our focus as an organization is to look at where we have this congregation of all these students, that at least we can resolve that they not to fall sick because they came together, they're in a school setting and that kind of thing. So we feel we may not be able to help everybody, but at least one school, one student that we can help, it's one size too many said.
Okay, and that is what matters. As long as you can at least touch one, or just a single or two schools, at least you've touched someone, at least you've touched a community, right?
That's correct. Yes, Doreen.
Okay. Now, you mentioned something about COVID-19, and yes, we know COVID-19 has disrupted a lot of things, especially in the country. Given the fact that you're mostly geared on giving back to society, giving back to communities, what are some of the projects that have stalled when it comes to this giving back, and how have you been able to handle it as an organization?
Yeah, so it's been really challenging for all of us and, families, organizations, and we had to cancel all our programmings. We fundraise through, well-wishers, the donors who just come and donate $5, $10, $20, whatever they can. That's how we fundraise. So when we do projects, we don't guarantee that we are going to do it, but we give it the best shot and the best opportunity to see that we address it, that we resolve it. But through people giving to us, and people have been very generous. I want to thank all of them. Our board members, they are all volunteers. I volunteer, I don't get it. But to overcome the COVID-19 situation, we started this year. We launched it yesterday, a global virtual 5.5K. Each year in June, that is summertime here, we put together people, call them to come and walk around the lake for 3.2 kilometers, that's 5K. And they register through a donation of $25 or whatever they can. And that's how we fund it. We had to cancel that this year. So to overcome and mitigate the COVID-19 situation, we are requesting people, wherever they are, any activity they can do. If you like watching a movie and you can watch a movie for an hour or two, you can donate to our cause and say you are watching a movie for 2 hours was your 5K. You can ride a bike, you can go hike a mountain, you can do any kind of bake a cake, you can walk around, you can run, you can jog, you can do anything. So that's how we are doing it. We were able to raise, as of 2 p.m. yesterday, Eastern time in the US, we were able to raise $1,750, that's $189. I believe our finance chair was able to communicate to me that now, as of today, we have raised $2,400. That's over 200,000 Kenya shillings. Our goal is to raise 5,000 US dollars. That's around approximately 540,000 Kenya shillings. And that will help us to add to whatever we have at the moment and address the borehole situation to overcome the water. So we are requesting all the Kenyans out there be partner with us, leverage on our ability to work together and build that relationship.
Okay, now at least now we understand, how you've been dealing and coping even with the COVID-19 issues, at least to ensure that you continue, with your project of giving back to communities and societies. Now, I want us to go back a bit on the virtual that you were talking about, and at least, make us understand better, how does it work? For instance, if I love cooking, how then do I get to be part of the project and be part of the process that at least, to be able to help in one way or the other, in as much as I may not be part of Miles Foundation?
Yes. So we found, like, when we do the 5K, we basically put an event together that you have to physically be there. Okay. So that event is very limited to only local people who can participate. But the COVID-19, well, it has been very sad, and our hearts and prayers go to people who have lost their loved ones, people who have, been affected by this. We pray for you. We're thinking about you every single day. But now, we have to make good out of the worst of times. And that's how we have been able to now let people know you can participate If you don't run, that's okay. We know that there is one thing that you like to do. Maybe you do gardening, you do farming, you go and get your coffee, you take the cows down the street. People here in the US, it's a time for voting, and as an organization, we admire and support people need to go and vote. So we're asking, if you have this time period, you want to go and vote, you can articulate the several minutes that you took to do that as part of your 5K. Any activity, cooking, going back to your example, you love cooking mandazi, for example. You can cook mandazi and enjoy them. You're cooking for your friends, for your family, and make that as an activity. Take a picture. That's what we're requesting. We have a Facebook page. Yesterday, we had a lot of people running in Nyeri, running in Nairobi, in Kajiado, in Nakuru, in California. Our good friend there went to do golfing. We had people doing all kind of activity that they do on a weekend, during their free time. Those are the activities we are letting people know you can do that and donate a little bit of money to our organization. And then we're going to thread all those pieces of videos together. That will be our Christmas gift. We hope we'll have raised enough, and we'll be able to articulate and be able to resolve the project at hand. And we'll, send the little documentary video to you as part of NI. What a nice thing that you can watch something on screen and you're part of it, something bigger than you, be a part of history. That's what we're asking people to do.
Okay. Isaac, you also mentioned something which I think is very important when it comes to helping in whatever capacity, whether it's helping someone, helping a society, or helping the entire community. There's always that aspect of, yes, I'm helping, but what am I getting? And for you, you mentioned that, you are doing it and you're not getting paid. So how then do you source and get the funds to go back and come and help? Because you mentioned schools, you mentioned sanitation points, you mentioned the health as a whole. Then how do you get these funds? And also for one who may want to start doing this, how then do they go about it, given that they're not benefiting financially?
Yeah, so when people do things that can benefit them, that you bring something that, you can only do this one thing because you're getting something in return, something financial. And, we have to come out of this box of, what am I getting? What is it for me? That is a very old mindset and cannot take us anywhere as people, as a society. It will just crumble us down all the time. We have to look at a bigger picture, something bigger than us, because, what is for me, just going to die with it, and it doesn't do anything much. So the satisfaction, me as a person, that I get is actually to see that kid smile. Is actually to see, it's a passion for me. It gets to a personal level. The way this organization started, my son was born, and I was just a guy with bachelor out there. But when my son was born, his name is Miles, I found the need of a child. And I was fortunate enough because my apartment had 2-3 bathroom, a sink in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the shower. I mean, a lot of water. I can just walk, and just open the water and go. But I'm well traveled in Kenya. Going back to the, where I come from, lost my dad when I was very young. Lost our mom 16 years later. We come from a bigger family of 10, 5 girls, 5 boys. We are all very close to one another. We remain united. But our mom was giving back. We had a lot of cows, a posture meal. She would give unga for ugali, for families, but I didn't understand it. But the joy she was having, I came later on to understand it. I get a lot of joy to see, and that's how our board and volunteers find giving back and doing more for others. It's more joyous. You're making it's as authentic as it can be because you're doing it something for somebody else. There is a satisfaction that you can quantify. It's a priceless kind of feeling, and that's what I get. That's what people get, and that's what we're asking people to do. Your $1,000, 1,000 shillings may not go so far, but 1,000 from 100 people who do what one person cannot do. So it's that element of leveraging and coming together.
Okay, so what I'm getting from you, Isaac, is that yes, it does not always have to be about money. Sometimes it's just about touching that person, right?
Right, touching lives in that person.
Oh.
And their thank you, their appreciation goes a long way. People get benefits and get blessed through others just saying a thank you that is very genuine because you did something without expecting anything in return. And that's what we hope that our fellow Kenyans who are not doing it can do that. You can, partner with any organization of your choice. We're hoping and we're asking you to join us.
Okay. All right. Now, just as you wrap it up, Isaac. Now, as of now, what kind of activities do you now want to start doing as we move forward? In terms of, again, still helping the community, still helping the society. What are you geared towards as Miles of Great Hope Foundation?
Yeah, so we have this particular event that we hope we can get as many people involved and engage with that. We have our website that has a lot of information out there. If you are so much geared to the water situation, we have a water program. We have a committee chair for water. We have a health sanitation and hygiene. And when we talk about that, we're looking at girls. A lot of girls get to miss their school, their education, because every month they have a hygienic, sanitary pads need. And when they don't have that resource or they don't have them from home, there is a level of embarrassment. They cannot even attend school. And you're missing engineers and doctors and pilots and, great profession, because then when you miss school so much, then probably your hopes and career path gets compromised. So the sanitation hygiene program for girls, it's there. We have that as a program. We're asking people to come and join us. We're also taking, the people and communities that have needs. We want to listen, we want to look at the proposal that they have and see which one we can be able to attend as we seek more donors. We are also have the education program that also, kind of balances the element of supporting the needs for kids and, their issues, getting to listen to them, getting to listen to one another, because it's not all about getting the office white collar jobs. There is also skills. There is also empowerment. Like I said, our vision is to revive, empower, and sustain hopes. So there is a lot of growth and, great things with people and students. And at a younger age, we want to be the organization that be able to identify those needs, identify those skills, and be able to elevate them. So our impact is very key to us. Sustainability, very key, and also remaining, into our vision and mission.
For your time and talking to us more about empowering and giving back to the society. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dorian.
All right, now, as I had promised you earlier that we're still continuing with matters BBI, and just want to find out what more we have in regards to that. So, Sami.
Yeah, we were having a conversation about it. We were not able to completely exhaust it, courtesy of time, and of course the emerging issues being that we need to cross over to Bomas of Kenya. But just a clarion call, even as we wind up that conversation, is from today, Kenyans will be accorded an opportunity to read that document. So kindly do that. For once, don't be told, be informed. We have a chance as a nation to debate and look into sobriety and achieve a sober moment. Let that moment be this for our country. So do not be told, be informed. Separate everything from political rhetoric. Over to you, Ben.
Good morning, and indeed we are still at the Bomas of Kenya, where any moment from now we are expecting President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Premier Raila Odinga right here at the Bomas of Kenya. It's D-Day for the 204 document of that is the building the Building Bridges Initiative report. Earlier on, I had painted a picture of what was happening, and allow me right now to be joined by nominated Senator Gertrude Musuruve. Indeed, we had a conversation with her some couple of months ago, and perhaps what we talked about was factored in. Madam, you have had a chance to have a sneak peek at the document before it's officially launched by the President today, and some of the issues that we had talked about earlier this year was about inclusivity, which is one of the issues that was supposed to be looked into by the Building Bridges Initiative. And on the same note of inclusivity, people living with disabilities, I'm quite sure you have had a chance to have a look at it. What can you say about it?
Thank you very much, Njue, for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Njue, for this opportunity. And first, I want to begin by lauding the President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and His Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga for coming up with this initiative of BBI. Because when we look at the overall issue, the BBI comes in to bring peace, unity, and oneness in Kenya. That is what we should be looking at as Kenyans at the moment. So the bigger picture, the BBI is a win-win for everyone. And I want to say, Njue, as a person representing, as a senator representing persons with disabilities, I'll not be shy to say that the BBI is really not overt with regard to inclusivity of persons with disabilities in decision making. Because when I read the document, I see clearly that it acknowledges that the seats that are given for persons with disabilities in Parliament and the County Assembly are abused because they're not given to persons with disabilities, but it ends there. But I want to say, and I want to tell Kenyans that persons with disabilities have not lost, because there's going to be a national conversation. As soon as this BBI is launched, we'll get into a national conversation. And a national conversation entails looking at the gaps that are there in the BBI and seeing how are we going to fill these gaps. Like in the Senate, already there's a gap that the nominated slot that we were given for persons with disabilities is not there. It has been removed. That is already a gap that we are seeing. Now, in county assemblies also, there are some persons with disabilities that were not represented. That was already a gap. So these gaps need to be brought in during the national conversation so that they are filled. So I want to encourage my fellow PWDs that let us support this document, but let us also demand that these gaps are addressed. Because I've heard people saying that BBI is not the way to go, BBI is not the way to go. I want to tell Kenyans that the right Amolo Odinga has decided to give up his interest. The president has decided to give up his interest because they want Kenya to be one. So can we have a national conversation? And I also want to talk to my fellow women, and I want to tell them that we are the people who have gained most. Because remember, Njue, when it comes to the Senate, we had very few women. But according to the BBI, we'll have 50-50. So when it comes to our gains, they're actually high in the Senate. But we are saying that in the National Assembly, let us have also a conversation so that we also have some more slots in the National Assembly. Now, remember, just recently the CJ had even taken, had suggested that Parliament be dissolved. That is something that is actually unthinkable, and it was because of the two-thirds gender rule. But women should really realize that we are gained immensely in the Senate. So in the National Assembly, can we have a national conversation? And when you're having a national conversation, women should know also that they're not the only ones in this republic. We need also persons with disabilities in the National Assembly. We need to have women with disabilities. We have to have men with disabilities. So even these 70 slots we are talking about, let us talk about these slots with a thinking of inclusivity in mind, with a thinking of persons with disabilities in mind. Because women, yes, we are fighting for these slots, but where are the women with disabilities? Where are the people with disabilities? So we have talked about issues of gender, but now it should be a national conversation that is talking about persons with disabilities as well. Because in the past, persons with disabilities have seen from a pity paradigm. Most of the time you find that they're just given handouts and all that. But what we need is not handouts. We need to be brought in the decision-making table. We need to converse. We need to be involved in legislation. We need to be involved in even allocation of revenue and all that. So that that is what we should be demanding. That when we are talking about an inclusive Kenya, it should be an inclusive Kenya for all. And persons with disabilities matter even in the in decision making. Because yes, I know that BBI has talked about persons with disabilities. It has talked about even it has even talked about the bills that need to be fast tracked. Like I know there's a bill that I sponsored, the Kenyan Sign Language. It is captured in the BBI that BBI is saying it should be fast tracked. There's a bill also have sponsored on learners with disabilities. It is captured in the BBI that we need to also see how it can be fast tracked. That is legislative. But let us have also persons with disabilities in the decision making table. And I want to say that persons with disabilities have always been behind in everything, especially economic empowerment. They have always been behind. But this is an opportunity to ensure that persons with disabilities are not behind economically. They should be involved in every step. And even in the BBI, it says very well that when it comes to interests of persons with disabilities, it will be catered in. And if BBI is capturing this, then it means that they're going to factor in our interests. And our interest is to be involved in decision making. When it comes to those big slots, the executive, it has been expanded. What is wrong with a person with a disability being in the executive? What is wrong seeing somebody with a disability in the executive? What is wrong seeing a person with a disability being a CS? What is wrong having a person with a disability being a PS? What is wrong having a person with a disability being a governor or a deputy governor? This is the conversation we need to have as a nation, and we should not stop there. And I know very well that the president is keen about issues of inclusivity and disability. I know very well that Right Raila Amolo Odinga is keen about issues of disability. But what is trying to mess up the issue of disability is because that everyone wants to grab, the seats and all that in decision making. But the party leaders may not be aware. The persons with disabilities have not been brought on decision making table. And I want to appeal to the president of this republic. I want to appeal to Right Amolo Odinga because I know that they are passionate about issues with disability. I'm actually appealing to them to correct the wrongs that are in BBI so that it is fully inclusive, so that persons with disabilities are included in the decision-making table. Because if we are not in the decision-making table, how will you know that we are productive? Most of the time, people use persons with disabilities as rubber stamps. You will find that they say they're doing projects about persons with disabilities, they're helping persons with disabilities with, in various ways. But right now, we are not in need of handouts. We are not in need of canes. We are not in need of wheelchairs. We are not in need. We want to be in the decision-making table. Talking also of issues of we talk about issues of 30%, slots to go to persons with disabilities, even when it comes to tendering. But ideally on the ground, that is not what happens. We have been talking about constitutionally, 5% positions should go to persons with disabilities. It is rightly in the constitution, but it has not been implemented. But when persons with disabilities are involved in the decision-making table, then it will be affected. And that is what we are lacking because we don't have a strong voice. When you look at the Senate, it's only me and Senator Maura who are there, only two. So our voices are actually submerged. When it comes to also the National Assembly, the voices are submerged. When it comes to county assemblies, 17 counties have no representation on PWDs, so they do not have a voice. And I want to say that when it comes to inclusivity cannot be fully achieved without bringing persons with disabilities on the table. And I want to also tell my persons with disabilities, this is not a time to fight with the government. This is the time to work with the government because it is a conversation. A conversation has no bloodshed. A conversation has seeing what gap areas are there and correcting the gaps so that everyone feels that he or she belongs to Kenya. This is our country. We have no other country to go to, and we must make sure that we are united. And BBI is what is going to unite us.
Indeed. Dr. You also are nominated senator, meaning that you have to check on oversight in counties. A big win for counties from 15% to 35%.
Yeah, actually, it's a big win for counties. And it is good, yes, it's a big win for counties. But as a nominated senator representing persons with disabilities, the question I still ask, how will persons with disabilities even benefit from the counties? they need to have representation there. When it comes to employment, we need to ensure the persons with disabilities are employed 5% in the counties. And when you're talking of the 5%, it should be lucrative positions. Because most of the time you'll find that when you go to counties, you'll find that the kind of jobs that persons with disabilities are doing are casual jobs. You'll find them sweeping, you'll find them dusting tables and all that. But we have to rise to the occasion because, Joe, I want to tell you clearly that in this country, so many persons with disabilities have papers, but when it comes to employment, they're not given a chance. Most of the time, the issues are not factored in. Yeah, because, and I'll tell you for sure, even when many people are addressing me, when they do not want, PWDs to pop out as they're also capable, they don't refer to me as Dr. Musuruve. They just say Musuruve, because they don't want the cushioning to come out. But I want to tell this country that when it comes to papers, persons with disabilities have papers. When it comes to big offices, persons with disabilities can be in big offices. Can they give us a chance? If I was not given a chance in the Senate, there is no way this country would have known that I would be able to even come up with bills. If I was not given an that nominated position, no one would have known that I have value addition in this country. I was rated as the best senator. In fact, not best senator, the best parliamentarian all over when it comes to dealing on issues of education, and I got the Shuja Award. But if I was not nominated, who would have known that a woman with a disability can be rated as the best? Can we be given an opportunity as persons with disabilities in this country? And I want to appeal to our president because I know he's keen about issues of disability. I want to appeal to Right Honorable Raila Amolo because I know that they're keen about issues of disability. Even when women are talking about issues of disability, let them know, as we talk about women agenda, as we talk about other people agenda, as we talk other people's inclusivity agenda, let us put persons with disabilities at the very top of inclusion.
Indeed. And we all Kenyans, and you bear me witness that when we are headed to the polls, even the economy reels from the effects of people are afraid. Are we going to be having a sweet or smooth election process? But the expanded cabinet will offer more inclusivity. What do you have to say about that?
Now, Joe, I want to tell you that when you're heading to elections, there's always fear among Kenyans, because you don't know what next. It has been after elections, it's violence and all that bloodshed, but BBI has solved that because it includes everyone. Because when you look at the bloodshed and all that goes, it's only the wrangles of leadership. But I want to tell Kenyans that let us include everyone. Even those who lose, they have value addition. It does not mean that if they've lost, they have no value addition. They also have followers. So BBI is going to include everyone, and if everyone is included, no one has a reason to fight. No Kenyan has a reason to be annoyed because they'll be represented. And also when it comes to the expanded executive, the beauty about it is that now CSS, the government will be in the National Assembly. And being in the National Assembly, it means that the CSS will not be paid. The assistants will not be paid. They'll be part of parliamentarians. So the money that was being paid to CSS will actually not be there. The many allowances they've been getting, they'll not be there. Their offices, they'll not be there. They'll be right in parliament, so money will be saved from that angle. So I want to say that when you look at the big picture, BBI is a win for everyone. And I also want to say, when it comes to issues, there are some issues we normally want to address in parliament. Sometimes you summon the CSS, they don't come. Sometimes you demand answers, to ensure the service delivery is effective to Mwananchi. We don't get answers. But right now, they'll be in parliament. So if they not answer, you ask them. You have not answered this. They're there. So I think I want to say that BBI is a win-win situation for this country, and we just need to have a national conversation and see how to resolve the gap areas that are there.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. I have been speaking to Dr. Gertrude Musuruve, who is a nominated senator, and of course she has made also the clarion call that people living with disability should not just be on paper, it should be implemented, and as she has said, things are different on the ground. Of course, my colleague Irene Mchuma Odime is on the other side, actually having an interview together with our cameraman. Let us see what the other side of Bomas has to offer. Of course, we will keep you updated as the president and the former premier arrive here at the Bomas of Kenya.
Right, 26th October, the year is 2020, a historic day that is going down in the country's calendar. The country is formally unveiling the Building Bridges initiative here at the Bomas of Kenya. This is after its presentation in the Kisii County at the Kisii State Lodge, where His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, together with his handshake partner, ODM party leader, had the BBI report, and the two have been at the fore campaigning for this report, saying that is one that will bring inclusivity in the country, equitability, and also ensure better resources for the country. My colleague Ben Njue is on the other side at the Bomas of Kenya, where His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta will be leading the country in unveiling of this report. On this end, I'm joining Kenyans in witnessing the unveiling of this report. I'm already having a number of them who would want to share the sentiments in regards to this report. Tuambie jina lako na maoni yako.
Jina langu ni Kazaroho Turome, mwenyekiti wa chama cha ODM Narok County. Leo nimefika hapa Bomas ili ya kwamba niweze kuangalia ile kitabu ambayo ya sheria ambayo inaundwa sasa, sheria mzuri sana ambayo inapenda wananchi. Vile ambavyo ninaangalia kuchambua saizi kidogo kidogo na vile niliweza kuangalia, ninaona kwamba tutazidi kuangalia kwa ndani, na ningependa Wakenya wote wajisomee kwa njia nzuri sana ili waweze kuelewa, kwa sababu ni wakati mzuri sana huu sisi Wakenya wote tuwe pamoja, kwa sababu tunataka Kenya nzuri, tunataka Kenya ya amani, na hii BBI ndio itatuletea amani nzuri sana.
Asante sana. Tuambie jina yako na maoni yako kuhusu hii shughuli ya leo.
I'm Kelemet Larus from Narok. I'm the Secretary General ODM Narok branch, and I really appreciate what is happening here, because the BBI intention is to make Kenya peaceful, whereby we share power, not in every election we fight because of the same. The other thing I would like to comment on is about the devolution money, where money will go to the ward, because in some counties are not giving the wards funds because of how they were supporting how they were supported. So on my side, I'm really supporting the BBI initiative.
What about the challenges already that the people with disability are saying they are not properly recognized in the report? What is your take on that?
You know, this is a consultative document. We are still consulting, and when we came here so that we'll be able to read it. After reading it, it is open to give more views so that things will be better. If there is something the people with disabilities see as if they have not been recognized, they have time to put their points there so that it will become all inclusive.
Thank you. Have you gone through the report, and are there some of the recommendations that you feel are comfortable for Kenyans? Tuanze na majina.
Okay, kwa majina mimi naitwa Simon Nairenge. Mimi ndio ODM Treasurer Narok County. Siku ya leo tumekuja hapa Bomas tukisindua hii katiba tukisindua hii ya BBI. So upande wangu mimi nasema BBI iko smart sana, sababu kile kitu ambacho inafanya tunasema ni mzuri. Hii pesa ya Ward of Funds ikienda kwenye ward itafanya itusaidia vizuri sana. Alafu lingine, vile baba amesoma katiba, amesoma hii BBI na Uhuru amesoma pia, huenda tutapitisha hiyo katiba kwa vizuri sana.
Shukran sana. Sam, before I get back to you, we are on this side of the Bomas of Kenya, and this tent that you're seeing here is where Kenyans are allowed to sit. Those ones who will not make their way into the auditorium where His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta and the ODM party leader will be unveiling the BBI report. But then there is heightened security from this end. For you to access this point, Sam, you will have to have your temperatures checked. You have to sanitize if you are not preferring to wash your hands. And then you have to go through the security check for you to be able to show your pass to access the tent. And we have big screens at the tent. So Kenyans will be able to monitor and witness this historic day from the big screens that have been put in place here at the Bomas of Kenya. Hundreds of Kenyans are making their way to the Bomas of Kenya to witness this historic event. Remember, the BBI is a baby of the March 2018 handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM Democratic Party leader Raila Odinga, who is also the official opposition leader. The two, as I mentioned earlier, they have been at the fore drumming up support for the document which they believe will better Kenya's political landscape. And just to know more on this, today the president and ODM party leader will be unveiling the report, making it open for debate here in the country and also allowing Kenyans to understand the report better. But then we will be bringing you more from this end as events unfold. So far, we are expecting more than 10,000 people to use this tent to be able to understand what is going on from the auditorium. And right now, as we speak, we have received approximately 4,000 Kenyans have made their way here at the Bomas of Kenya. Besides that, we have legislators, and this is the route that we are expecting His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta to use while making his way to the auditorium and also other legislators. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Irene Chuma, there for setting the preamble together with Ben Troy Njoe on what will be happening at the Bomas of Kenya today. It's the public presentation of the Building Bridges Initiative report, a document where everyone has been urged to read it, go through it, and ensure that you make an informed decision by the end of the day. Guys, talking about Regina Manyara and Doreen Range, it's about that time where we wind up.
Well, exactly. For me, I'll just say, the way they're saying, read, make an informed decision. Just read it. And my name is Doreen Range. Till tomorrow, good morning.
And on a lighter note, let's remember that it is President Uhuru Kenyatta's birthday, and we all remember what happened last time when we're talking about birthday gifts. I'm Regina Manyara. Have a great day ahead. Remember, read the copy for yourself and understand it. Read, understand, make your decision.